Hi, everybody. Nick Blazer here with backgammon position analysis video, and I've taken this position from my commentary work back in Cyprus just a week ago. This was from the semifinals matchup in the second chance bracket, an 11-point match between Jon Barnes and Khosrow. I forget the name right now. It's in the video link. I should go look at it. I will actually link the stream with timestamp so you can actually see this match or the moment that it occurred too. Go check that out. But this incredible position came up in the match. And I'm kind of jokingly warning about like, do not try this at home. But I mean, it's a very interesting antithesis of a position or the kind of analysis that I usually do or that I've done in my book. Um, this is one of those exceptional positions that I mentioned in the very beginning of the book, where all you can do is know all of the math and the take point numbers and match equity, and work through that, and it's a cool math puzzle. But so it might not look at the face of it like it's as deep of a problem as it is, but man, this one's got everything, which is really exciting. So I want to go through still how one would work through this just for fun. I do not recommend doing this in match play while you're actually playing a match for the most part. But I mean, what's really incredible about this is that Jon Barnes did do this all. So keep that in mind. Jon is the one in the pink shirt on the right, Kosra on the left, and it came up in their match there. Really exciting stuff. And I mean, just like what an animal figuring this out over the board and eventually getting the right decision too. It was so impressive. Like one of the most impressive single decisions in actions that I've seen in backgammon. So I mean, we can get started here. You can see that Jon is playing the checkers, the white checkers on the bottom. He is 3 away. His opponent is 8 away, and he's holding a 2 cube. And so our typical match analysis is we would send a 2 cube to a 4 cube, knowing it's going to come back on 8 for the match because of the overage in points. It never would hurt our opponent to send it back. And so the way we would typically decide to send a cube like this is, are we at least near our opponent's take point or match equity passing to 8 away, 1 away Crawford, which is a little less than 7%. And if we look at this position, we can see that we miss with 7 numbers. I'll just bring up a little bit of math here. We miss with a 3-1, a 2-1, a 3-2, and a 1-1 for 7 numbers, which is about 19.4%. This is way higher than 7%. So it seems that in this position that our opponent would have a trivial take, and we're probably nowhere near close enough for it to be worth sending. We could do some math to make sure, because just because we're not right up there doesn't mean that we gain by sending it, even if we do have to play this match for 8 points. But hold on a minute. This problem isn't that simple. What we need to recognize in this one, which clearly Jon figured out, and it took Thomas Tenlin and I a while to figure this out, is what does happen when we send the cube to 4 and our opponent and we miss. Well, our opponent's going to redouble to 8, but we might not have a take. So if we know this reference position of a single checker on the 6 point here, we would find that our winning chances as black from that position to take this checker off once is 75%. We take the checker off with exactly 27 rolls and 9 misses for exactly 3/4 of the time. Um, our match equity, again, we're 3 away. So our opponent's sending us a cube to 8, offering us to play for the match. Or we can pass and move on to 3 away, 4 away leading, which is clearly going to be at least better than 50% if we don't even remember exactly what the match equity is there. And our opponent's offering us 25 match equity to take this. So it's a clear pass if we get there. So now our homework is to figure out, okay, when we send this, we're going to pass every time. So effectively, our opponent's going to win more games and all this, right? So given that, how does that work? When we miss and this goes wrong, we're actually only losing 4 points and not 8. However, we don't get like the winning chances of a miss and our opponent missing, right? So we'll factor that in. But like the first thing that occurred to me to do this, if this was true last roll, you can figure out what what your winning chances would need to be doing some match equity calculations. So briefly, I'm going to show you the match equity table here, and we can see that if we just play this out, all the relevant numbers are highlighted here for the most part. So if we just play this out and win, we go to 8 away, 1 away Crawford, which is in the top right in green, and we'll be just over 93% to win. If we play this out and lose, then we go to the other green box, 6 away, 3 away Crawford, and there we're 71%. If on the other hand we double and drop after that, then we're going to go to 3 away, 4 away, right? So we drop down to 57%, and so our risk that in sending the cube is that we lose 14% match equity, and our gain is going to be a little bit worse than 7%. So if we just think about it that simply, then we can figure out there in a position where we're going to drop the recube, um, what winning chances do we need to profit from doubling, even if we have to drop that recube. And so if we jump over to our notepad to do some math again, we'll scroll down through this a little bit. So as I mentioned there, our risk is going from, instead of arriving at 6 away, 3 away when we lose, we arrive at 4 away, 3 away, which is 14%. Our gain is that instead of having to play out from Crawford, we go to 100%, which is about 7%. And so the standard formula for determining a take point, this risk over risk plus gain, can actually be used to figure out when our doubling window opens as well, which is 66%. And we're better than 66% in that position. We actually only lose, like 20% of the time, a little bit less. So we should have a cube there. All right. And so we have to figure out on our opponent's side whether or not they have a take at that score line too, right? If given that exact scenario, and it seems like they still should. I guess we could. So they can pass at that point, and so I mean, the reverse of it should be pretty much the same. Is that instead their risk is 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 uh, is only the 7% and their gain is the 14%. So their take point is going to be like 33%, right? So very easy double, very easy take if this is the amount of the math. And we can also go and look over at the cube information in XG and see that the the double point for XG is right around that 2/3 that we mentioned with the dead cube. And with the live cube, we can see it's closer to 91%. Just like we said, we need to be a lot closer to that to the match equity at 8 away, 1 away Crawford to send it. Okay, so we figured out that we can send the cube at 66% or 67%. Great. And so this should be a double and a take. And if we look at this in extreme gammon, we'll run it real quick. We happen to get the right answer with this, but there's another gotcha. But it does happen to be a double and a take. And somehow we find this, even though we wouldn't usually be thinking about it at 85%. So kudos to Jon. But there's one other thing, so we figured out 67% that should be good enough to send the cube, right? So I should be able to make this position even a little bit weaker and still have a cube, right? What if I put the two checkers on the 2 point here now? There's only 10 misses. So that 10 out of 36 versus 26 should be a little more than a quarter of the time, but less than a third of the time. So you should still be squarely in that window. But I run it and I don't have a double now. What happened there? So this position also happens to have basically a function of the Jacobi paradox here. This is a Jacobi paradox style position exactly, where for money we wouldn't redouble this because we gain a little bit more about waiting on the cube, even though our position's gotten worse. We wouldn't double this, but we could make it better for an opponent than they would. So for example, what makes this a Jacobi paradox position is that we don't cube it when our opponent has the checker on the 6 point, but we do cube it if they have a true claim, if they have a true 100% position after this. So the math we did works out if it's last roll. However, when there's a cube involved, then it doesn't work. So add to all that take point math we just did to figure everything out that we have basically a Jacobi paradox position too, where we need to consider not only do we win enough to be at a doubling point here, but really the only way to get around this one is to calculate what are our winning chances when we do pass this 4 cube every time. What is our overall equity? And what are we missing out on by just playing this out and still being able to win the quarter of the time that our opponent misses and gets a Crawford that way? So that math, I mean, I did here too in the notepad, but looks a little more complicated. We'll hop over to that real quick. And so on a no double, all you can do is use all those same match equity numbers that we looked at before, which is if we don't double, 72.2% of the time we're going to win immediately. And then on the other 10 rolls, a quarter of those we're going to win as well, for roughly a total winning chances of 79.1%. And our match equity after that is 93.25%. So if we multiply that out, we get 73.8% match equity. Now, when we lose, we're going to go to that 6-away, 3-away score line, which is 71% equity, for 14.8% match equity on the other side of the coin. That totals up to 88.6% match equity. So this is the value of the position if we don't cube it, which is calculatable, but good luck figuring that out on the board. And they're so close too. Like you have to have all these numbers perfect, because if we look at the double side of this, well, 72.2% of the time, this is we're going to we win, right? This represents all the rolls where we get the two checkers off, where we don't miss. 27.8% of the time, the other side of the coin, we're going to pass and go to 4-away, 3-away, which is 57% for the leader. So that 27.8 times 57% match equity is another 15.8% match equity. So those two numbers added together is 88%, which is less than 88.6. And so our value is higher, not doubling, right? In that particular, and what we're looking at here, this is the example position that I showed you, where the Jacobi paradox one, like this, right? So in this one we have the full 10 misses, right? And did all the math on that. So this is why this one becomes not a double, right? If we did this all, we can see already the XG analysis for this one. The math comes out good enough. We're still higher sending it. Good luck figuring that out over the board. Oh, sorry. Let me show the XG for that. So what I was showing was the notepad math we did is for this position, right? This is how we arrive at a small no double. But of course, if we did all that math for this, we would find that the equity after a double is higher, and that's where XG is getting this. And that's really the only way to calculate it for sure. I guess there's other tricks people have that I've heard of, such as in Jacobi paradox positions, like doubling the difference. The idea that we're making our opponent's wins worth more, but it really here it's a claim. So yeah, to summarize that, Jon Barnes got to this position, figured out that he would let the 4 cube go, knew that he had to do a different kind of math to figure out where his doubling window opened there. Maybe he comes up with 66%, but still has to figure out, well, is my value still clearly higher that I don't get to win 25% of those games to get to 8-away, 1-away Crawford? I'm guessing, I talked to him after the match, and he told me he did a bunch. I mean, you can go watch the video. He spent a bunch of time figuring it out over the board, and I think he probably got a lot of the numbers, and I think he told me in the end I just made a guess and figured something out. So I think probably, I mean, if it was me, maybe this is where I'd be getting like, well, I can't do all this math over the board. Or maybe you do some of it and try to figure out what's worth more. But yeah, I mean, he ended up getting this right, which is just amazing that he would even start to consider it. But this is the kind of stuff that can come up in backgammon for sure. I mean, it's not too often. It's fun to treat as a puzzle after the fact, but realistically, if we get to this and just make our best like feel-based guess about what's going on, we're going to do pretty good, and we're going to miss out on 150 equity here sometimes, I guess. But actually, he sent this and generated a pass over the board too. So I guess it's possible. I don't think that's going to happen against many, but Khosrow had an idea too that he was never going to win 8 points, and so knew that he actually had to be quite a bit better to take this. I'm not sure which piece of the calculation he might have done incorrectly, but given that on a dead cube, I mean, probably if we look at that at the cube information too, his dead cube take point is 15.75%, which maybe he was able to calculate and know something close to that. And we can see his winning chances overall are less than that. So potentially the error he made was calculating both those and not comparing how it actually go out. But even though XG is showing us our cubeless winning chances here, clearly we did the math already to show how often that it's 19.4% of the time that white's going to miss. And since black can cube those every time, if we cube, then black's going to win 19.4% of the time. But that's not what the analysis is showing here. No matter what, it's cubeless winning chances and not cube full. So something to watch out for when you're analyzing it too. But yeah, I still think as a math puzzle, this is the kind of stuff when I was getting into backgammon that I was super drawn to. I think it's really fun to be able to work these problems out. But then I've learned over time too that like trying to execute this over the board is risky. I mean, you can go wrong in your math any step of the way, which it would seem probably Khosrow did. It doesn't come up very often. This is the first time I said in the book that I'd never seen a problem like this come up in my own match play or in all the commentary I've done. Well, here's the first one. So we're there. Um, but for how infrequent it comes up too, like it's not that much realistic equity. And yeah, so I think it's cool to like get an idea of how the game works this way. So I'm just showing this as a fun math puzzle brain teaser. Um, but yeah, I don't think it's something you need to learn and apply over the board either. I recommend if you want to get better at match play, you go check out my book up there, right over here. There we go. But yeah, thanks. I hope you enjoyed that. Catch up on the Cyprus commentary from the weekend. Lots of cool stuff happening there. Great matches all over the place. Some new names to watch out for, things like that. I had a blast out there. And I hope to do these more frequently, maybe once or twice a week. So please, any interesting positions you've seen come up in matches or just ones you want to learn about, I hope to do more basic ones than this. This just felt like it's such a crazy thing to happen that I wanted to spend a video talking about it. But yeah, I'm happy to teach about whatever and kind of help you understand the process I'd use for for addressing problems and kind of where your logic might have gone wrong in addressing the position. You might learn from that too. So send positions my way so I have things to work on here. But thanks everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back soon. Bye now.